Well, speaking about our world, Troy and Heidi Darrin are with us today. I believe you were upperclassmen when I was in school. I'm not sure. When did you graduate? Oh, yeah, upperclassmen, much older than I am. We went to North Central together. They've been in the ministry for 100 years. But they're in Moldova. Did I get that right? Yeah, because you got Crimea, you got Moldova, you got all this other. And there's a little few hot things happening there. But they're going to be with us after church this week. Today, we are going to be having our banquet for our church builders group. And we've raised only almost $60,000 to build churches around the world. So Troy and Heidi are in the process of saying goodbye to their children and grandchildren. So we're praying for them because they leave for 4 years and go over to Moldova. And I begged them to come today and to present, because we need to present then. They're going to talk to us about how we can build churches in Moldova after church at the church builders meeting. If you want to come to church builders, it only costs you $1,000 a year to be a part. No, really. The minimum entry into church builders is $1,000. And you go like, that just sounds so exclusive. Well, get over it. But the idea is to build churches around the world. And right now we're in the process. We're going to help building a church in Mexico, just south of the border. And today is our next one. Troy, come on up, and Heidi, come on. Let's welcome them with a good New River welcome, guys.
Just cut me loose. Good morning, church. Who wants to hear a great report of what God's doing on the field? And I'll tell you what, even through, especially the report is about 2020 and into 21, which we know we kind of want to leave that in the past, but I got to tell you, we've been home. It was almost this time a year ago. We had just landed in America. And we've been in Moldova since 2007, so in our fellowship, missionaries are on the field 4 years and then home a year. So a year ago, we landed in America, and we started our year of sharing the incredible report of what God had. And in about a month now, we'll be returning back to Moldova. And a very in-the-news spot today over in Eastern Europe, an area. Anyway, I have one more service next Sunday, and I am as excited today as I was when we landed a year ago to just tell you what God is doing over in this little country of Moldova. And right through COVID, right through all of my mission teams canceling, the lockdown, everything we experienced, not to really remind you of that, but really it's all to show you how God was still at work. And we can't wait to get back because we know he's going to continue the work. So anyway, this is the deal. Here's my wife and I. All right, we've been married 38 years. And as a result of that, here's what happens after 38 years. You have grown kids now, and we got grandkids coming. And tomorrow morning we take off to go see these two over here, the Declan and Dodger. They're the one on my shoulders. Get to go see them for 3-4 more days. And then the little guy, we just saw him. He's out in Seattle. Born on 4/3/21. That's. So that little guy, he's out in Seattle with my middle son. The other two, they're in Arizona. And our daughter, she's more landed in Wisconsin. Heidi's a Minnesota girl. I'm a Wisconsin boy. When we graduated North Central, we spent 20 years in pastoral roles and led 10 short-term mission trips. And eventually God called us to full-time missions. Now we've been doing that almost 15 years, and next term will take us to 20, so we're going for 20 pastoring, 20 missionary, or more, whatever God has. But here's Moldova. You see it right there, sandwiched between Ukraine and Romania. After World War II, Stalin chopped off that northeast corner of Romania, became part of the USSR Moldavia, and for almost 50 years under Soviet rule, 91, it declared independence along with the many other republics. And it became a country. It's only 30 years old as a country. And we have been there in ministry now as missionaries almost half of its existence. They speak ethnically tied to Romania, so they speak Romanian. They also speak Russian from the years of Soviet rule. And it's like a junior high boy trying to find, or a young person trying to find their identity. It's Europe's poorest country in many ways, and just a lot of struggles, poverty, corruption. It's the #1 shrinking country by depopulation in Europe. There's a lot of hopelessness, people working outside the country, 3.5 million or so, but 1 million plus working outside the country, sending back remittances. But my wife and I, we absolutely love Moldova. And I often say in another time, it would be the little heartthrob of Europe where people would go to get away and all these little resorts. And it's just a beautiful country. We can't wait to get back there, truly. And we're saying our goodbyes. It always gets a little sad at this time because we know once we're over there, we get to come home for a few weeks here and there for vacation, but we head back for another 4-year term. But I got to tell you what God did, speaking of this report. In 2020, actually, you see this little slide here, 20 churches in 2020. Coming into 2020, just a few months before, I began to have this year, this was actually 2019, I began to have 2020 just popping into my mind. And it became, we all learn to feel God's impressions and how he speaks to us and become aware that God's trying to tell me something. And 2020 was just popping into my mind. And I thought, well, yeah, it's ahead in a few months. It's our last year before we go home for a year to itinerate in 21. So, of course, I'm just thinking about 2020. And I wasn't thinking that much about it, but it was just on my mind a lot. And then one day, this is what happened. Here comes this thought, 20 churches in 2020. And I immediately knew it was God, and I kind of freaked out, and I got up and I went to the kitchen to get a coffee, get a snack, get distracted, hoping it was just, sometimes when God speaks to us, we're hoping it's just our thoughts, right? Because it kind of scares us. I think that was God, but that is way out of bounds, God. We don't do 20 churches in 2020. We do about 4 or 5 a year maybe. And we host about 4, 5, 6 mission teams a year, and we work on new projects and new churches where there's no church, kind of like Paul in the book of Acts. So, God, you know our modus operandi here. It's not 20 churches in 2020. The thing freaked me out. And for a couple weeks, I'm just letting this whole thing just come to me every day. And is that me? Is that God? And finally, I just said yes to God. God, this is you. I didn't know what to do, though. Okay, God, where do we go from here? This is you. You're talking about 20 churches in 2020. Again, this is like now the fall of 2019. And I'm going, God, how are we going to do this? I don't know, but I believe this is you. So I begin to take these baby steps. And after 15 years in Moldova, got a lot of relationships. I begin connecting with churches, pastors, leaders I know, finding out what home churches are a good mother church. Do you have any new churches or places you're trying to start new works? You got a little home group somewhere, home church going that's ready for their first real church, their first physical building we can help with. And over a couple months, come up with 20 places. My daughter helps me make this nice little brochure about 20 churches in 2020. Now, I'm not home itinerating, getting up every Sunday and sharing like this at churches to say, do you want to help sponsor a church? I'm in Moldova, and we get this list of 20 churches, and we target 10, 12,000 per project. And again, we didn't do it all, but this was seed money to start the church, some from the ground up, some buying an existing property and retrofitting it, some buying a storefront or something and retrofitting that. However it was going to work, I didn't know. This was like new ground. God, we usually work on about 4 a year, so you got the plan up there. Okay, I'm going for this with you. Well, we get this together, and just long story short, we come into 2020, and COVID hits, right? Now, Moldova's not as cold as Minnesota, but 4-season climate. So January and February is just cold there, just planning, organizing. March, we're hoping to get started on some of our projects. And when we came into January, we had about 10 of these spoken for, sponsored, and I thought, God, this is going to be a great year. You were serious about this. We got about half of these already, and we can get going on these as soon as March hits and the ground clears, and we can get going. And I don't know about the other 10. You'll take care of that as we get going, but wow. Well, bang, March comes, and here comes COVID. and we're locked down all the way until like mid-June. I'm walking in the streets in our capital city of Chisinau, right down the middle of some of the busiest streets, normally jam-packed with traffic. City of 700,000, our capital city. And I have 6 mission teams, they all cancel. And in the midst of all this, God still does this. I'm telling you what, 20 churches in 2020, Borogan, Boshkana, Bubuyac, Kainar, Katrana, Chisinau, that's the capital city where we live. Chimishen, Cheresh, Korlaten, Krikova, Dolna, Georgia Lesh, Hirjalka, Humalesh, Mershen, Miklioshen, Petresh, Rodeni, Vexkoren, Vadalui, Voda. These places, my wife and I have been to these places. We are at these places, driving around with pastors, looking for places to buy, to believe God that we could start a new work, believing this was one of the 20 places. And all these places we have been to, some many times, some we've been there when we started the project and getting our hands dirty. We've visited homes, we've done evangelism events there. We've hauled different students with us, having services. And we can't wait to get back because almost all these places have churches up and going now. All funds were met for the 20 churches, our commitments, and I think 17 of these 20 they had church today. They're 8 hours ahead of us. They are up and going, having weekly ministry. Okay, enough talk. You want to see a few, right? Let's take a look. Look at Vadalui Voda. All right, now you got to have some faith because what do you see there? Do you see a church? No, you see something. All right, watch. Put a little faith in, sprinkle this with faith, and we got this little project started in 18 and 19. Hold on, that's just a little, that's like the appetizer. All right. The real 2020 project was a triple this. That's in the brochure here. So watch what happens here. God began this work, and he finished it, and there's the church. That was a piece of ground. That was a piece of ground. We have been involved in that church from the ground. And I can't wait to get back because I got to get there and preach. So that's the real church, right? We know we love the building, but the real church is the people and this happening in Vadalui Voda. Take a look at Humalesh. Here's a little different story, smaller village. And here we just bought this property and we retrofitted it. Small team came in. We've had teams from 5 to 25 come in, new roof, new back section, gut that thing, new windows, moved the door. Probably 30-40% of the children of this village are involved on a weekly basis in ministry in this church. And they've got the midweek and Sunday going, set up for COVID there, but they can get 40, 50 chairs in there. And it's just, I love this project. It works so perfect for Humalesh. Take a look at Miklioshen and Dolna. There's Nico, Pastor Nico and Veronica. Right behind them, that was one of our 2020 projects, Miklioshen. You can see it built behind. That's all finished out. Seats about 150. His wife, 5 miles down the road, born and raised in Dolna, and right there's Dolna. There's where you get your little bus stop and you get your little van ride to go wherever you want to go in Moldova. This is a village of about 3,000. Right behind where that little van is, the church had this property, and they couldn't do much with it. They had no more money, but they had bought this property. We thought, I came to Nico, I said, hey, we're in this with you, 2020 project. Let's get this church in Dolna going. We thought we were going to retrofit the little house like we did Humalesh, but that was far gone. You know, that's straw and mud, basically, those walls. We said, let's just go for it. Let's go as far as our funds can take us. We excavated the land. We got the foundation poured. We thought we were done. We were thrilled, though, just to be that far. And in a month, God brings in money that almost like just fell out of the tree. We were amazed. We said, hey, let's keep building. Maybe we can get this framed and get to the roof, get it enclosed. Well, over a few months, this thing got done. That was a year ago in January. A year ago last month, almost totally finished. You guys know construction, you ladies, men and women. You've done remodeling at your house. You helped with the church. You know, for a church to get that far, everything to be done, it was amazing. And we can't wait to get back there because I got to preach there again. And look at that. That church is up and rocking. Take a look here in, where we're going, Mershen. This Pastor Victor, his dad is the bishop, the leader of the whole country in our fellowship. And he leads the very first church that his father-in-law went to Moscow in '89 during Glasnost, and that time, the new day happening in under the Soviet rule, got permission to build the very first church in Moldova with our fellowship, the Pentecostal Union. And so his son-in-law now pastors that, but they've planted about 4 or 5 churches. I jumped in with with him and Marishan. And watch this. This actually got started a year ago in November. The winter was kind of mild. They were renting a place and they had to get a space. So they said, let's get this going. Maybe we can get enclosed. We've got a strong church. This is a year ago, almost at this time, a week before we came home, a year ago in February. Look at them out in the middle of winter trying to get the roof finished up so they can use this place. Well, anyway, this thing got up and going. I sent him a note in October, this past fall. I said, hey, Victor, how's Marishan doing? He sends me this picture. Look at this. Look at this, baby. The whole inside is all finished out. They're doing ministry. They got kids coming after school every week. They got midweek stuff. This thing is rocking. And he sends me this note. He says, hello, Troy. Every Monday, we make bread from our bakery for the poor in the village. And they come and we have a service and we help the needy people. A couple times a week, we have the poorest kids from the village come and we have Bible study, help them with their schoolwork and feed them. We had very big opposition from the people in the village in the beginning. Now the atmosphere has changed. After we built the church building, people are saying this is like star in the darkness. And he goes, ... this area starts to shine. And when I read that, I got choked up because I know the grind. This is the Moldova's Europe's poorest country. Just the grind of the village and the rural setting especially. I mean, $300 a month in the capital city maybe, but in the rural setting, you don't have a garden, you don't have a yard, you have a garden. You got little chickens and hopefully you got a cow that goes, and all that stuff. But you're just sustenance living. And this church is a star in the darkness. It's a place of hope and help. And there's ministry going on, I bet you daily out of this church. And it's a star in this village. Anyway, one more here. Take a look at Radeni Vek. You know what this was? This was a former Soviet library, all beat up and unused, I'm sure for a long time. And Pastor Georgi, we had helped him build his first church back in 2005 when I led a mission team from Waukesha, Wisconsin, where I was associate pastor. We came back from that trip, and within 2 days, God called us full-time missions in Moldova. So that's where it all started with this Pastor Georgi. Well, now I'm working with Pastor Georgi, and their church is planting churches. So the church I helped, now I'm working with their daughter churches. And here in Radeni Vek, he has me come out 4 times. We're driving around trying to find a place. He's confident. We got a group. If we can get a building, we're ready. We're ready. We get this, and we get going on this. This is what you might be doing if you would have been over there. Pick any of these projects. You would have been working on them. Men and women, young and old. There's something for everybody. And we not only do the construction stuff and we get the new church going, but we do all kinds of evangelism. We're going in schools. We're doing home visits. We're doing children's if we have doctors or dental people. We're doing whatever we can just to touch the community when you're there. So come one, come all. Anyway, look what happened here. This baby is finished out, and the children are coming after school midweek. This is Sunday morning, and lives are being changed. So there's a story there about Claudia too, just awesome. But that's just a quick glimpse. 20 churches in 2020. God was serious. He's immune to COVID. He didn't care about COVID. He knew about COVID. We didn't know about it, but he knew about it. But he said, hey, we're going for 20 churches in 2020. God, we usually do 4 a year. I have no mission teams coming. I'm not even home itinerary. What are you thinking up there? Hey, get up out of bed. Get to work. Let's go. So God did this. We're going back, and missionary Paul in the book of Acts, one more minute here. What's he doing in the book of Acts? He's doing one or two things. He's either going and starting churches, establishing new works where there's no church, building, establishing, starting new works, or his second and third missionary journey, he's coming around and he's strengthening the church, right? And I thought, that is, you can just boil missionary Paul down. That's what he's doing. And that's what we're doing. When we go back to Moldova, we are going after another 20. We have what's called a 2020 vision. Nothing to do with the year now, all right? Transition with me. We're going after 20 new churches, $10,000 each as targeted funds to go after these new works where there's no church. And then we want to strengthen the 20 I just showed you or told you about and showed you part of them. And I want to have some funds to go back to Pastor Niku and Pastor Sergey and Sasha and Georgi and say, hey, how's the church in Vadalui Voda? How's the church in Humalesht, in Marashin, in Radenivek? I have some funds. What can we do in evangelism? What kind of resources do you need? How can we strengthen you to continue to have influence and grow? We haven't forgotten you. We're going after new ones, but we want to strengthen the work that we started with you. So that's what's happening in Moldova. When we get back, we are going right after this immediately. We have had an incredible year home, our strongest year home. We have churches behind us, teams lining up already. Don't worry about all the world events and stuff. You know, if you wait until life is perfect to get married, you'll never get married. If you wait until everything's perfect to have kids, you'll never have kids. And if we wait to go back to Moldova until everything's perfect, we'll never get back there. We're going back next month, and you guys are going to be coming soon with a team, and we're going to build a new church or a couple of them, whatever. Pastor Tom, take it from here. Amen. Glad I had that Americano.
Hallelujah. That's exactly what we want to be a part of. Amen?